Okay, this photo was taken in London back in 1899. This photo shows aircraft audio radars. These were individual units dating all the way back to 1917. Here's a look back at a dress designer from the 1950s. Here's a picture of Dutch children after they arrived at Ellis Island. This was taken around the year 1900. Here's a photo of the Army airship, the C-41, landing on the Mall right by the Lincoln Memorial. This was all part of the celebration for Lincoln's birthday back in February of 1930. Here's a photo of a Vespa family from the 1950s. Here's a photo from Battersea Fun Fair in London, England, around 1952. Here's what we've got. This picture shows a soldier in London back in 1939. He's carrying some tea. This photo was taken in New York back in 1950. Check out this amazing photo. It shows a koala in Australia back in the year 1900 drinking from a spoon. How adorable is that? Here's a great photo of George Harrison playing guitar. This was taken way back in 1955. Here's a picture of a policeman from Germany, dating all the way back to 1926. Here's a fascinating photo. It shows a Navajo medicine man back in 1904. Here's a portrait of Jack London. He was born in 1876 and lived until 1916. Here's a photo of General Custer from 1860. Here's a cool piece of history. This is a machine from 1931, designed to sell cigarettes that were already lit. Can you imagine that? Here's a photo of one of America's youngest newsboys. He's only 4 years old. This picture was taken in Florida back in the year 1913. This amazing shot captures a New York City trolley braving a snowstorm. It's from the year 1910, and you can just imagine the conditions those folks were dealing with. Here's a shot of a soldier and his cat taken at a camp in Cyprus back in the year 1956. Here's Freddy Ford, a mechanical robot from the 1960s. He's designed to answer your questions. Pretty neat, huh? This is Simo Häyhä, often called the most lethal sniper in history. This photo was taken in the 1940s. Here's a photo of young nurses during World War II. Here's a fun one. This photo shows Petra, the Alsatian dog, who was a star on the British kids show, Blue Peter. This was back around 1964. She's pictured answering her fan mail, which is pretty impressive. Here's a photo of Winston Churchill back in 1900, around the time he was first elected to Parliament. Here's a photo of Gertrude Ederle, and it's a big one. It shows her becoming the very first woman to swim the English Channel back in 1926. Amazing! Here's a look back at New York, back in 1950. Here's a lovely old photo. We've got a couple, looking quite stylish, riding a Malvern Star abreast tandem bicycle. This was taken in New South Wales, Australia, sometime around the 1930s. Here's a photo from around 1920. It shows two women on treadmills. Here's a look at Bob Marley on his wedding day back in 1966. A child back in 1958 trying to convince a police officer to let them cross the street during a parade. I bet they had something really important they wanted to get to. Alright, check this out. This is an old public service announcement against drinking from way back in the early 1900s. Here's a picture of Whirling Hawk, a Sioux Indian from Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. This photo was taken way back in the year 1900. Here's a photo of Annette Kellerman taken in 1907. She's striking a pose in the swimsuit that got her arrested for indecency. Here's a good one. This photo shows a soldier from the Soviet Union, absolutely grinning, carrying a statue head he's just liberated. We're guessing he never pictured himself hauling around the head of Hitler, you know. This was taken in Berlin, at the very end of World War II. Alright, check this out. This photo shows a navigation hotline in the Netherlands way back in 1963. Imagine, long before Google Maps even existed. Here's a look back at a procedure called freezing off freckles from the 1930s. Here's a portrait of a young, grumpy girl. It's from the 1850s. Here's a photo of Leo Tolstoy from 1848. Check out this blast from the past. It's an ice bucket challenge, but way before it went viral. This photo was taken in New York City back in 1943. Here's a shot of a window washer on the Empire State Building way back in 1936. This photo is of Robert Earl Hughes, who was the heaviest person ever recorded. He weighed 1,071 pounds. Remarkably, he could still walk on his own. The photo was taken sometime between 1926 and 1958. Here's a cool old photo. Check out this cat crossing the road in New York back in the year 1925. Here's a photo from Florida Memory. It shows Betty Frazee grilling at an underwater barbecue at Silver Springs. Pretty cool, right? Here's a photo of a brave British bulldog doing his duty and guarding his home during the Blitz. This picture was likely taken sometime between 1939 and 1945. You can see he's even barricaded his little space for protection. A real symbol of resilience, wouldn't you say? Here's a photo of Albert Einstein taken in 1941. Here's a picture of the Krakatoa volcano erupting. This was back in 1883. Here's a picture of Mother Teresa as a young woman. This is a photo of Richard Nixon from 1930. Wow, check out this blast from the past. This picture shows a young boy probably seeing a TV for the very first time. It looks like he's mesmerised. This photo was taken way back in 1948 in a store window. Here's a shot of designers working on the Chevrolet Fleetline Sport Sedan. This was back in 1942. Here's a photo of a starving inmate from Camp Gussen in Austria, taken in 1945. Here's a photo of a happy French girl and her cat, taken way back in 1959. Alright, check out this blast from the past. It's a photo of city folks trying to navigate a narrow road in Idaho during the winter of 1952. Looks like a real challenge. Here's a photo from the funeral of John F. Kennedy, way back in 1963. Alright, check out this incredible shot. It's a Hellcat fighter plane that's crash landed. This photo is from World War II. Here's a photo of female volunteers at Pearl Harbor back in 1944. Here's a class photo of Vladimir Putin back in St. Petersburg, or Leningrad as it was known then, around 1960. Here's a photo of Enzo Ferrari way back in 1920. Safety first for this Miss Washington, D.C. This photo was taken on August 8, 1936. Alright, check this out. This photo shows some greasers in New York City back in the 1950s. Classic. Here's a photo from 1944 featuring a giant Nazi soldier. Alright, check this out. It's a lunch break, way up high on a skyscraper in New York City. The year is 1932. Here's a photo from the Capitol showing John F. Kennedy's funeral. Here's what Abraham Lincoln looked like in 1865. Here's a cool old photo. We've got a police officer and his dog cruising on a motorcycle. This picture was taken way back in 1930. This is Jacob C. Miller. He was shot in the face during the Civil War. Incredibly, he survived, but the wound never closed, and he lived with it open for the rest of his life. Check out this fascinating photo. It's an ultralight horse-drawn car navigating traffic in Paris back in 1943. You just don't see that kind of thing anymore. This photo, called Cultures Collide, was taken in 1968. Here's a picture from 1950. It shows children in an iron lung. Here's a photo of the aircrew and mascot of the Cressy Royal Air Force Flying School taken in 1943. Here's the photo. It shows a French radiographer back in the year 1918. He's all suited up in his protective gear. Check this out. This is a concept for a portable TV from the year 1967. Pretty cool, right? Ava Gardner loved animals, and she had several different pets over the years. Here's a sweet photo of a little girl balancing on her mother's hand in Pittsburgh. This picture was taken sometime in the mid-1900s, a truly classic moment. Here's a photo of the Sun Girl Quest Place getters, all smiles at Sutton's Beach back in 1953.